Welcome to PRSay. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer, and I'm thrilled to be here to have another opportunity to connect with another great member of our Houston chapter of PRSA. That's the Public Relations Society of America. And here at PRSay, our objective is to get to know our members a little bit better. Some of us haven't been able to connect in person as much as we'd like to. So now you can just download some of our podcasts from your favorite platform and make sure you hit subscribe so that you can connect with others and really grow your network here with the Houston chapter. Now, if you are watching the video on one of our social media platforms, go ahead and drop some comments so my guest and I can go back and reconnect with you. If you happen to be catching the replay, just hashtag replay so we know that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our guest today, Miss Candace Johnson. She is joining us. Hello, Candace. How are you?
Hello, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you. I want to know all about you and what it is you do and how our members can connect with you.
Sure. So I am the executive director for marketing communications at Prairie View A&M University, which is a historically Black college that is about 25, 30 miles outside of Houston. I have been there for about 10 years, started at the entry-level communications specialist role and have, moved up in the chain or in the ranks to become the
Right.
executive director and lead a team of about 7. We we basically are the point people for every college that is a part of Prairie View A&M University. So we have
Mm-hmm.
about 8 colleges,
Mm-hmm.
and we are the ones behind the scenes creating the narratives to help push and tell the stories of the things that are happening in those colleges.
That's so exciting. And we know how important it is to be able to share those stories because they are our pipeline, they are our future. And so tell us about how you got to Prairie View and what got you into the communications line. I'm always fascinated how people kind of move into that pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is kind of interesting. I actually was a student at Prairie View. So I went there. I was a part of the languages and communications department at the time. Did some really great internships. Thought that when I initially, enrolled as a young undergrad, I just knew I wanted to be in news and cameraman. I
Mm-hmm.
think I did
Mm-hmm.
one internship and was like, this is not for me.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so then I moved on to
Right.
another facet and I was like, oh, I'll do editing. And I enjoyed editing, but it still wasn't giving me the fulfillment I needed. So then I switched to journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got into journalism, I just kind of fell in love with the ability to be able to share stories and storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
so I took that and graduated and did some freelance work and ended up going actually into the excuse me, the education space at the K through 12 level.
Oh, okay.
Worked at Alvin ISD, teaching
Yes.
speech and debate. Um, while I was there, I realized that high school teaching was probably not for me.
Good to figure that out on
Yeah,
your first year.
yeah.
That's really
So
important.
I enjoyed everything about the job, but I knew that I was still wanting to do more. So I
Yeah.
moved to New York, and pursued an MBA in media management
Uh-huh.
and came back to Houston. And that's how I ended up at Prairie View, working in that entry level position and then working my way up. But I've always had a love for media. I've always had a love for journalism. I tell the story that I used to use magazines as my wallpaper in my room. All the great articles that I would find, and so that's my story.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great story. I love how you've tried a couple of things and figured out very quickly what you did not like.
Yes.
Because some of us struggle with that. And it's just as important to figure out quickly what you don't like and what isn't a good fit for you so that you can find your calling. So, Candace, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in PRSA and how that connection has helped you in your role because you have a pretty big team. So, I know that's important.
Yes, yes, yes. So throughout college, I was involved in PRSSA.
Yeah.
Um, And so when I got older and throughout all of my career transitions, I kind of was not able to participate as much as I wanted to. So once I came back to Prairie View and began to lead a team, I had some really great talent, but I knew that they were missing some networking opportunities and some professional development. And
Sure.
so I wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity and I had an opportunity to expand our network, which I think is essential in in the higher education space.
Mhm.
And so we secured the membership and attended a few luncheons, and we're very excited about the opportunities to connect.
Yeah, no, I agree definitely, and I have a team as well, and so I can tell you that the professional development that they get is fantastic with the webinars and all the different resources that they have. Candace, tell us a little bit about some of the work your team does, because for those of us who maybe work in the agency space or work in the corporate space, the higher ed space is just a little bit different. The stories that you have to tell and how you support those individual colleges have different messages. They have different target audiences.
Mhm.
I'd love to hear how you're able to balance all that out with your team.
It is interesting. I will say that, and no day is the same, which I'm sure
Mhm.
many PR professionals will say. But we are truly a blend of marketing and communications, and so our storytelling ability has to be across several different platforms. And like
Mhm.
you said, it clears several different messages. And so what we had to do is make sure that we definitely had the structure to support it.
Right.
And then we wanted to make sure that um, everybody's story had the opportunity to be told, because
Right.
you don't want to tell the College of Juvenile Justice and then architecture feels like you aren't sharing their stories as well. And
Right.
so just finding ways to bring everybody to the table at one time, get all the stories, and then figure out the best mediums for those stories, whether that be connecting them with reporters
Mhm.
or like, for example, when we received the $50 million from Mackenzie Scott, we wanted to video it and share that far and wide with people. So it depends. We Last week our team produced a Toni Morrison 30-minute documentary, because we have a writing program named for her.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it could be a variety of things that happen throughout the day, but it's just really making sure that every college has the opportunity to have something being shared during the course of the month.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that balance is unique because, again, in a corporate setting, you don't necessarily have to, there's account executives and there's, other priorities. But I'm in the K-12 space, and that's absolutely true. We've got feeder patterns, we've got high schools, and you got to make sure everyone gets the same amount of love. And there may be different needs of one community. And so I love that you talked about that, because a lot of people forget that that's something that we have to on this side of the house balance out. And I think your team does a fantastic job of doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, how can people see some of your work? How can people connect with you? If anyone's interested in learning about working in the higher ed space, what advice would you give them? I always tell people, let's pretend we're at a networking event and we're socializing. What would you say to someone? What kind of advice would you give them?
The higher ed space is very fun and challenging, I will say
Mhm.
that. But you have to come prepared to work, because some of the smaller schools, the marketing communications teams aren't that large.
Yeah,
And so you have to be able to bring your big ideas, and then you have to be able to execute those big ideas where because you may not have, 20 people with you
right.
to do that. And so it was for me, it's about finding the balance in doing so.
Mhm.
And that's what I would suggest to anybody entering that space. And it really is kind of almost a blank canvas, because
Right.
higher ed marketing and communications is still kind of catching up with how corporate is presenting themselves, right? They are able to enter spaces a lot quicker than higher ed has been able to do. So bringing those, like I said, big ideas to the table and executing them has been the best passion for me. And then you can kind of see my hand in everything. So anything from the website at Prairie View to our YouTube channel. We started a podcast a year and a half ago. Um, So I touch all of those things.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Well, I love to hear it, and I love that you guys are doing that work and pushing that team because I'm sure that they're very proud. And as a leader, you're probably growing them in big ways, and that's exciting too.
Yes, yes, it is.
Great, Candace. How can people connect with you? Do you prefer LinkedIn? How do you want people to reach out and just ping you and make sure that they connect?
Yeah, I prefer LinkedIn. I am pretty responsive on LinkedIn. I am looking for mentorship opportunities with students. I try to connect
Oh,
with some
that's great.
students on campus. Um, so yes, LinkedIn is the best way to reach me.
That's fantastic. Candace, you've been a wonderful guest. I'm so glad you were able to join us, and I know our members are going to love connecting with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Make sure you connect with Candace on LinkedIn. She's got some wonderful insight and a very unique space that has some different challenges and challenges I can relate to. So I loved the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to PRSay. This is the Houston Chapters podcast. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer with Veronica V. Sofer Public Relations. And I love connecting with members and bringing you an opportunity to connect with them as well. Now, if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, make sure you hit subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. And if you are watching on any of our social media platforms, make sure you drop some comments so Candace and I can go back and connect with you.